Joining us from our D.C. Bureau, talk show host Carla Cash.
I mean, she's a conservative radio host with WRVA in Richmond, Virginia.
And Carla Cash, a talk show host.
Oh, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
Well, in this city, you can't swing a dead cat without finding somebody upset.
It doesn't take a village to raise a child. It takes the parents to raise the child.
Well, Amy, did it ever occur to you that maybe he did these things because of something having to do with the person as opposed to their skin color?
That if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a great big party.
It's a shame that when you don't have anything else, you think you have to play the race card.
Did your mama not spank you enough when you were a child?
Joining us from our D.C. Bureau, talk show host Carla Cash and Fox News contributor Ellen Ratner. Good morning to both of you.
And if you play those by the rules, those ballots are out.
Okay, Carla.
Since when did you guys find the rules all of a sudden? Basically, this thing it's been before the Florida Circuit Court. It's been before the Florida Supreme Court. It's been before the U.S. Supreme Court. What's next? Divorce court? I think juvenile court might be more appropriate.
Then play by the rules. And if that's the case, throw out
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I would say let's start with you guys. I mean, Ellen, all they had to do was punch a hole. They had to punch a hole. How hard can that be, honey?
How about all those ballots that were just spit out by the machine all over Florida?
And because they weren't properly cast. And that's not new, Ellen. You know that. Look at the 16,000 in Florida in some of the counties in 1996. The same thing happened in the Clinton-Gore election in 1996, but you all weren't screaming then.
Well, because Clinton so clearly won the election, we weren't hanging on one state.
So it only counts when it works in your favor.
Carla, how do you think this is going to end and how soon?
I don't think it's going to end this week. I know some people are predicting that it might, but right now, if I were any of these judges involved, I'd be hotter than a hooker in church. It's going to be quite frightening for any of them, and they're basically damned if they do and damned if they don't. I think we're going to see at least another week and a half to another 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you very much. Ellen Ratner, Fox News contributor, and Carla Cash, a talk show host, and what an imagination.
Reminded me of a Ducey family reunion. Thank you very much, ladies. Sensational. We'll have to have you back.
If I were any of these judges involved, I'd be hotter than a hooker in church. They're going to resent Whitewater. They're going to resent a lot of the scandals that unfortunately mark the Clinton administration very clearly because she's very closely associated with that.
And poor Elian, the kid. Did the government do the right thing when they grabbed him in the early morning raid? All right, Al, why don't you jump in on it?
I think that it was nothing less than absurd. I think it was such a ridiculous show of force.
You don't see where it's absurd for this family to have basically broken the law. Thank you, Amy. And to have basically held this child hostage for 5 months.
That Janet Reno discovered the rule of law all of a sudden. I mean, she doesn't seem to have a problem like shifting the laws around on this to cover.
Well, you know, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
Yeah, that may be true. That may be true. That may be true.
Don, this is an incredibly emotional issue. This little boy is not a trophy to be won or lost. He's a child. You are punishing this father because of his politics. If you keep doing that, you better pray you never get a Democratic judge with a Republican mother.
It's become a Sunday night ritual for many, many people around the nation. We're talking about folks gathering around the TV set to watch Sex and the City. Also watching the racy show on HBO, teens and kids even younger who tune in with their parents. Good, Stephanie, you sit down and watch this show with your daughter. How old is she?
She's 15.
And you feel that's okay, and in fact you think it's a good thing?
We have a good time together when we watch it.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the things that we're seeing, I mean, are pretty eye-popping. This is you can only use the word racy show.
I tell you, the idea of using Sex in the City as an educational tool to teach sex to your teenage child makes me about as nervous as that frog on the freeway with a busted hopper, because you know something bad is bound to happen. It's kind of like taking the National Enquirer and using it to teach a college journalism class. I mean, yes, they're both funny, they're both entertaining, but they both also are pretty trashy and don't always tell the whole truth. It's a parent's responsibility to do these things, not use the television as a babysitter, and certainly not to shirk your responsibility.
Why don't we just take a great big net and scoop it over all of Cuba and bring them all over? This is not about penis envy, my friend.
For me, I would like to have seen some new people, some new faces. I would
Bev,
like
are you
to
the type of person who, when she gets to heaven, is going to complain about the cheese dip? I mean, come on.
Do you have a teenage daughter?
Actually, I have 33 children, and one of them is on my chest. They are 33 men and women from our hometown who are fighting in Iraq right now. Now, ma'am, there's some role models for your daughter to learn from.
What is always right is not always easy, and what is always easy is not always right.
I'd be hotter than a hooker in church,
Carl and Amy, you are the politest pundits we've had in close to 2 weeks, and I think the crew is going to break into applause in a moment. For that, we salute you.
Carla Cash Harris.
Carla in the yellow, the best talk show host around and a great person. Everybody home, come back next